It's almost like an unofficial rivalry week as we got week 6 matchup between Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins against the Los Angeles Chargers led by Justin Herbert. We're going to get into the game and preview everything there is to preview regarding it and get you set up and ready for the game this weekend. Smash a like button. Subscribe if you are new. And as always, let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field down the near side, man open, touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown again.
Tagovailoa traveling. Pick up for it, fire to the end zone. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. Appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. We got a lot to talk about today, so I do appreciate you taking some time out. We got some great college football on today at 3:30 Eastern. We will have Dante Moore versus Fernando Mendoza, Oregon and Indiana. A lot of good quarterback matchups going on today. John Mateer, my guy, is returning today against Arch Manning in Texas. As you know, Mateer was the early Heisman favorite before he got hurt. Right now, I got on my TV Missouri and Alabama. Ty Simpson versus Bo Pribula. I expected Ahmad Hardy to be the star of this game, but that hasn't been the case so far. Tonight, you also got Lenore Sellers versus Garrett Nussmeier. You got Jaden Maiava against Bryce Underwood. So, I think you also got Dylan Raiola versus Malik Washington today, too. So, you got a lot of good quarterback matchups going on college football right now. So that's some interesting stuff right there. So if you are watching college football today, there are a lot of good quarterback matches to sit back and keep an eye on. Shout out to Jared in the chat. My Blue Jays are going to be facing his Mariners in the ALCS. Brother, I think we take in game 1 tomorrow. I think your bullpen is probably so, like, let's be honest, that crazy game yesterday, 15 innings or whatever it was, man, that favors the Toronto Blue Jays heading into Sunday for sure. And if I read correctly, which I think I did, the Seattle Mariners flights have been delayed even getting out of Seattle to Toronto right now. So they're not going to be landing till tonight as well. So, going to be interesting stuff to watch that whole situation play out. ALCS, baby. Let's go. Let's go, man. So, I mean, we're going to have the Mariners or the Blue Jays in the World Series. So, that's pretty good. So, I think, for all those who aren't interested in the quarterback matchup this weekend, I've told you guys what I would do. Francis Moigoa from Miami or Spencer Fano from Utah. I'd be going to get a right tackle if we get a top 10 pick. I'm not even going to lie. So, shout out to Reshad Jones because we've covered this story when it was actually initially happening on the channel. We went ahead and talked about it. So now Reshad Jones, because you remember His former financial advisor allegedly stole like $2.59 million from him. Well, he just settled a lawsuit against Merrill Lynch for $9.5 million. So, shout out to Reshad Jones. I've talked about him before. One of my favorite Dolphin players over the last, 15 years for sure has been Reshad Jones. I was sad we never. Ty Simpson just got knocked out of the game. I wanted, when he was here, I wanted to get a playoff win for a guy like Xavier Howard, but I always said this to you guys. I wanted those wins more for a guy like Reshad Jones. Really sad we never got Reshad Jones his just due, because damn, he was a fun safety to watch for the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, he really was. Absolutely fantastic. Something else here, the Dolphins, they went ahead and they released Cornell Armstrong off of IR with an injury settlement. I really do think you are going to continue to see what I think you're going to see, and that is, I think Kendall Sheffield is going to be the weekly elevation for the next 3 weeks. So I would be expecting that. That is what I would be expecting, is to see Kendall Sheffield taking one of those elevation spots for the next 3 weeks. And then whether they sign him or not from there, that probably depends on his play. So it's also going to be interesting too, who's going to be rocking the green dot this week? Is it going to be Jordan Brooks or KJ Britt or Willie Gay or maybe even Minkah Fitzpatrick, because we are expected to be without Tyrell Dotson this weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how that whole red dot issue works out. Now, with Tua's injury, I know we talked about this just a little bit. Pribula just rushed in for a touchdown. I know we talked about this a little bit. McDaniel did say that Tua Tagovailoa's hip injury is to the same hip that he injured at Alabama. So, but otherwise, it's unrelated to the 2019 injury. So he's been able to take full reps at practice throughout the week. Obviously, he's expected to play against the Chargers. So that to me is kind of interesting. That this, this hip stuff, I mean, man, that's not going to be sitting well with a lot of people in his injury history. So we know last year the problem was against the San Francisco 49ers, he suffered a hip pointer. So, and that hip pointer had him miss the potential, it turned into a non-clinching game, but he had to miss the matchup with the New York Jets. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say at this point. This guy. So, but he's going to be playing. Hopefully he doesn't aggravate it even further. I mean, at this point, we're 1-4. I mean, trotting Zach Wilson out there or a guy like Quinn Ewers just probably further pushes along and get a top 10, top 5 pick. So, I don't know what else to say on that. So, shout out to everyone in the chat coming through. Appreciate it. Do me the favor, smash that like button as you do. Subscribe if you are new. And as always, shout out to the sponsor of this video. That, of course, is Sleeper. Do you think you know football? Then try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app. The ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Just choose 2 or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code PHINSIDE, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and most Canadian provinces. go ahead and check Sleeper out today. And as you can see on the screen right now, Sleeper, they are giving you a free $20 and no deposit is required. So first-time users can still receive a 100% deposit match up to $100, but right now with no deposit, it will give you a free $20 to get your betting going. So go check out Sleeper today. All right. Let's start getting into everything here. All right. So again, smash that like button as you come through. All right. Listen, it is Fan Fest weekend down there, right? Fan Club weekend, sorry. So a lot of Dolphin fans flying in from near and far. And if you're headed out to the game tomorrow, all right, because we're not doing this on the usual Friday. We're doing this actually on Saturday. Got some stuff going on Friday. So this is where we are at in terms of your weather. So it is expected to be around 83 degrees. It's going to feel like up to 89. There is a slight chance of thunderstorms. The precipitation probability is around 32%. The cloud cover is going to be anywhere from 31 to 37%. You're going to have winds 5 miles out of the northwest. So listen, there's a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. Pack those ponchos just in case, because we all know how crazy and unpredictable that Florida weather really can get. You know, we know how bad that and how crazy that can get if you've ever been down in Florida. That can, man, torrential downpour can come out of nowhere. So there is your weather report for this week. The injury report. For once, the Dolphins aren't leading the way. When you look at the injury report right here, Elijah Campbell is out. Tyrell Dotson is out. Aaron Brewer has popped up on the injury report. Now, this is something to definitely keep an eye on for tomorrow. 110%. You know, Brewer is now legitimately probably a game time decision. He has a pectoral injury, sorry. He's been limited all week because of it. Now, McDaniel did say he's hopeful that Brewer's going to play this weekend, but he did say he's still unsure. Daniel Brunskill would be the one taking the center snaps because Liam Eichenberg and Andrew Meyer are both sidelined right now, right? Meyer, he sustained that elbow injury in the preseason. Eichenberg has an undisclosed lower body injury that the team is calling potentially chronic. So, man, you know, he's legitimately questionable. Storm Duck may be back this week. I wouldn't, I don't know if I'd be holding my, breath on that. I'm going to be honest with you right there. I think right now, Aaron Brewer is the worry, and that's where the mind is at. Now, cornerback, Storm Duck did say he was healthy enough to play. He's listed as questionable. He's been out since the opener with that ankle injury, but he did say that he was healthy enough to play. So it's going to be interesting to see if Storm Duck does get some reps. It looks like we're going to be seeing that boy Minka play some corner for sure this week. But continuing on with the injury reports, Darren Waller, he's limited. Larry Borum, Tua Tagovailoa, Cedric Wilson, we're all full. So Cedric Wilson might be good to go. It'd be interesting to see if they elevate him. But look at this. No Joe Alt, no Deshaun Hand, no Trey Pickens. Those are some significant losses for the LA Chargers this week. Quentin Johnston's also banged up. Denzel Perryman's banged up. Jamari Slayer's banged up. Keenan Allen's banged up. But he's going to be good to go. But they might not have Jamari Sailor now, sorry. I mean, he went from limited to do not practice the past 2 days, and he's questionable. So, Mekhi Becton, he is a full go for them, though, right now. So, you're talking about you are facing a very, very depleted offensive line. Like, very depleted. This is where the second week in a row that the front seven in Miami is getting the chance to redeem themselves. So, we'll see how it plays out. Now, when you stack these two teams up and how they do stack up, all right? This is what you're looking at right here. The total offense right here, the Dolphins, they rank 28th. The Chargers, they rank 12th. Passing offense, the Dolphins are 21st. The Chargers are 10th. Rushing offense, the Dolphins are 30th in the NFL. The Chargers are 14th. Now, obviously, no Amari and Hampton, no Najee Harris. So, that means for a team like the LA Chargers, they're going to have to rely on, Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins. But, I mean, are we in a position to even scoff at that after what happened last week against Rico Dowdle? I don't think so. All right. You look at the sacks allowed and the scoring offense here. Right now, the Dolphins actually are scoring more points per game than the Chargers. The Chargers are ahead of them in total offense, passing offense, and rushing offense, but the Dolphins are finishing more. Dolphins averaging 21.4 points per game. The Chargers are averaging about 19.6 points per game. Sacks allowed. The Chargers, they've allowed 17 already. The Miami Dolphins have allowed 11. Third down offense. Look at the battle of two solid third down offenses. Two top 5 ones. All right. Chargers are converting at a 46.4 clip. The Dolphins are converting at a 46.7% clip. So just a little higher. Now, when you get into the defense, that is when they really start to separate. Right now, the Chargers have the 7th total defense. The Miami Dolphins, they have the 29th. The Chargers, they're boasting the 4th best passing defense in the NFL. They're only allowing about 172.2 yards per game. Whereas you come over here to the Dolphins, they're allowing about 212.4 yards per game, which is the 16th best pass defense in the NFL. In terms of running the football, the Dolphins are 32nd against the run, which surprises no one. They're allowing 174.2 yards per game, coming off a game where they just allowed 239 to backup running backs. The Chargers, they're allowing about 121.6 yards per game. Scoring defense, the Chargers, they're only allowing about 19.6 points per game. The Dolphins, they're allowing 29 points per game. Sacks, the Dolphins have 11. The Chargers have 14. Third down defense. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We just talked about how these are two top 5 third down offenses. Well, look at what the Chargers, number 4 ranked third down offense, is going against the 31st ranked third down defense. The Miami Dolphins are allowing a 50% clip to be converted on third down. Half of third downs against them are being converted. That's terrible. Through 5 games. Chargers are allowing about 37.3%. There's like a 13% difference there. That's crazy. Takeaways, the Dolphins, they've had 5 over the last 2 games. The Chargers, they've got 4 on this season. In terms of giveaways, the Chargers are giving the ball away a little bit more, right? The Dolphins, they only have 5, while the Chargers, they have 7. Right? Now, Tua Tagovailoa has gone 2 straight games without an interception. Knock on wood, that continues. So, we've gone 2 games without a turnover, basically. We're still finding a way to lose, but, got to keep that up. But I'm telling you, that third down offense of the Chargers against that third down defense of the Dolphins, that's going to be a key matchup this week. That is going to be a big time matchup because we've seen this team really struggle getting off the field on third down. So, man, that is kind of crazy. That is a bad third down defense. So let's keep it rolling here. Let's get into my keys to victory for this week for the Miami Dolphins. All right, let's start off with offensive keys. So offensively, the offensive line needs to limit their drive-ending mistakes. Last week you had 10 drives, and the offensive line ended 5 of them. They gave up 3 sacks. You had a bad snap from Aaron Brewer that led to a miss from Tua Tagovailoa, and you had a hole on Cold Strange. And you actually should have had 6 of those 10 drives ended by the offensive line because you also had a hold that was called back on Aaron Brewer because you had the incompletion on Malik Washington on third down. So if that pass would have been completed, you would have had 6 drives ended. So you can't afford the offensive line to end 50 to 60% of your drives. You can't win like that. You just can't. You're going to have to run for much more than 19 yards than like you did in week 5. I mean, like, let's be real here. How far do we really expect to go? This is a run defense in LA that's middle of the pack, giving up about 121.6 yards per game. The problem is you're averaging 82.2 yards per game because you won't commit to the run at all. And then, even when it's not working, you got to stay committed to keep defenses honest. But we don't roll like that. So, and then number 3, you got to be prepared to threaten outside the numbers while making Waddle, Waller, and Achane focal points in your game plan. We saw in the first 4 weeks, we saw when teams would take away the middle of the field, the Dolphins would start pressing outside the numbers, and Tua Tagovailoa was comfortable. I mean, if you go look at Tua Tagovailoa this season, on the deep level outside the numbers, he's actually one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL this year. If you go by PFF grades, which you guys know that I do not, he is actually one of the highest graded throwers deep outside the numbers this year. And the only time he was making an incompletion in those weeks was if his base was off and his mechanically he wasn't on point and his feet weren't set. And you got to step up the snap count for Darren Waller. I mean, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, 32 snaps is not enough for Darren Waller. The guy had 5 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown in the first half last week, and somehow, some way, you went away from him. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I mean, you got to threaten the seams, and you got to push the ball with Darren Waller. Like, flat out. I don't know what we were thinking. I really don't. Now, defensively, you got to capitalize on Herbert's recent turnover woes. All right? Herbert started turning the ball over recently. He's thrown 4 okay, like Tua hasn't had an interception the last 2 games. Well, Justin Herbert started off with no interceptions over the first 2 games. Now he has 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions over the last 3 games. All of a sudden, the turnovers are starting for him. Right? You got to take advantage of this. Right now, Justin Herbert isn't playing his greatest football. He's just not. Right? He's also got 2 fumbles this season too. Lost one of them. So you got a guy who 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles, one of those fumbles lost. Herbert's kind of crashed down to earth a little bit, and now the running game is going away from him a little bit in terms of he doesn't have Amari Hampton or Najee Harris anymore. You got to take advantage of those turnover woes because they're evident right now in his game, and this defense is starting to force turnovers. So, could this be a perfect storm? I don't know. You got to take advantage of number 2 here. You got to take advantage of a depleted line. I mean, Zion Johnson has given up 37 pressures. I'm pretty sure they benched Bradley Bozeman last week. I'm almost positive they benched him last week. Because he's given up 30 pressures on the year. Trey Pipkins, who's out, had given up 29. Rashawn Slater's given up 26 on the season. The pressures are coming real fast for the offensive line of the Chargers right now. And you also need to take advantage, not only with your pass rush, this is your time, your pass rush needs to show up, but, again, the run defense. And right here, another week, another chance for the run defense to redeem itself against the backups. How many chances is this front 7 going to get to build some momentum, to build some confidence, and go on a roll here? This is now 2 weeks in a row you've been blessed matchup-wise. What are you going to do? So you got to take advantage of Herbert, who's turning the ball over right now. You got to take advantage of a depleted offensive line. And yet another week where you're facing backups. And what's crazy is backup running backs behind a backup offensive line. So you got to take advantage of this. You have to take advantage of this. I know last week I said if the run defense isn't going to show up this week, it never will. And sure as enough, it didn't show up. But now I didn't think we'd be playing in a position where, half of the offensive line are starters. Sorry, half the offensive line are backups in LA this week. And they're relying on backup running backs because now they've lost Amari Hampton after losing Najee Harris. And to be honest with you, I was worried about Amari Hampton. I was worried about what that guy was going to do to us. So you keep getting these chances. The football gods keep blessing you with these opportunities. You got to take advantage of this, man. I'm going to tell you this much. If we get ran over, right? If we can't get to the quarterback, if we aren't making life difficult for Justin Herbert, making him, make plays on the move out of structure, if we are not holding Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins to under 100 yards or around 100 yards, if they go off for 150 plus for us off the ground and Herbert just has all day to have a picnic back there and slice and dice us, I really think you need to fire Anthony Weaver after this week. And this is coming from a guy who wanted to see Anthony Weaver get a shot at head coach. Because, I mean, that would just be damn near unacceptable. Like, damn near unacceptable. So, you're going to need... There's just no excuses, man. Even for our defense, our excuses are lessening and lessening and lessening with every opponent we're facing right now. So, we'll see. And, I don't, listen, our secondary has actually been, I know Jack Jones was taking one too many penalties, and Rasul Douglas finally had a bad game against the Dolphins, but our secondary has been much less of a problem than the front seven has been. So, and I think the one thing we do have on our side, unlike against Carolina, is we're at home. I don't know if this team would have blown a 17-point lead at home. I will give them that much credit. Then again, you never know. So, who's my matchup to watch for this week? That matchup to watch for me would be Tua Tagovailoa versus Justin Herbert. That would be the matchup that I have to watch right now. They faced off now. This is going to be the fourth time. This is going to be the fourth time. Tua versus Herbert round 4. Let's go. And like I said, it's kind of become a, unspoken rivalry. If you think about it. Right? It's kind of become a unspoken rivalry right now. So, now, let's go further into this. This is how these two match up right now since 2020. Herbert has played 15 more games than Tua Tagovailoa. All right. But his winning percentage is less than Tua. His completion percentage is less than Tua, but he's thrown for almost 6,000 more yards in those 15 games in Tua Tagovailoa. But what's crazy is Tua is actually leading in pass yards per attempt at 7.6 to 7.2. But where Herbert leads is about 265.7 yards per game to about 239. Now, passing touchdowns, Herbert also has thrown 35 more passing touchdowns than him. Tua has one less interception than Herbert. And then the passer rating is higher for Tua. It's 98.1 to 96.4. And obviously, Herbert, much more dynamic as an athlete, so he just blows them away in terms of rushing the football. And what's crazy is they both only have one Pro Bowl. That's crazy when you look at it. But that's how those two match up head to head. So that would be my matchup to watch. I mean, in reality, you could do the Chargers offensive line versus our front seven. You could do Mike McDaniel versus Harbaugh. You could, there's a lot of ways you could go, but the fans, they're all over the Herbert Tua matchup, which has made this kind of an unspoken rivalry. And it's funny when you actually stack them up this year, and how they're doing this year. So right now, Tua Tagovailoa, on the season, he has 1,008 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He has a 70.7 completion percentage and a 100.1 passer rating. Justin Herbert has a 65.7 completion percentage, so about 5% lower. He's thrown for over 200 more yards. He's got 1,229 more yards. He's thrown for 2 less touchdowns. He only has 2 throwing touchdowns. And his passer rating is 91.2. Again, Tua Tagovailoa is over 100. It's 100.1. So, technically, statistically, Tua Tagovailoa is having a better season than him, but that don't mean Jack Bo Diddley, because Los Angeles is 3-2, and we are 1-4. So all those stats don't matter if you ain't winning. So how do I see this game going? I don't think. Oh man, it pains me to say it, but I do think the Chargers are gonna win. I do think the Chargers win. I think it's going to be 31-23 Chargers. I just, after seeing what I saw against the Panthers last week, how can I pick the Dolphins, number one? Number two, take Herbert and Tua out of the equation. I just don't trust our coach to hold his own against Harbaugh. Right? I think we're going to get out-coached tomorrow. And I think that's going to lead to this team getting outplayed. So, I don't have any faith that this team is going to win tomorrow. I really don't. Now, could they surprise me? 110% they're at home. But, let me put it this way. On none of my parlays will I be taking the Miami Dolphins. This could be, another matchup to watch that we could have put up there is Ladd McConkey going to have his breakout game this season? It's been really Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen that have, Ladd McConkey, right, coming off that huge rookie season with 1,149 yards, averaging 14 yards per reception. It's down to 10.1. He had 7 touchdowns last year. He only has 1. Right? He hasn't broken 100 yards in a game yet, has Ladd McConkey. Is this going to, Kendall Sheffield's going to be covering him out of the slot and elevation. A safety going to be covering him out of the slot. Our linebackers can't cover. So, this could be a game where Ladd McConkey goes off on us. I'm sitting here looking at the variables, and that's a real thing. Ladd McConkey hasn't had his breakout game this year, and we know how good he was last year. Especially if Quentin Johnston isn't good to go. And now they got to rely on Keenan Allen and Ladd, basically. So, I just don't have faith that this team wins. So, I got the Chargers 31, the Dolphins 23. Hope I'm wrong. I was wrong about the Jets game. Hope I'm wrong. I was wrong about the Panthers game too, and that didn't go our way. So, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be. So, we'll see. I'll be live tomorrow for the game, live reacting to every highlight and low light of the game. So make sure you tune in. Hopefully we see another classic that the Dolphins come out on top of, like we did to see opening 2023. I remember that post-game show, man. Over 1,500 of you showed up in the chat during that post-game show because the vibes were immaculate when we beat them. So, listen, I think the only team that I support on Sunday that's going to be winning a game is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. So, we'll see how it goes. Guys, smash that like button. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe. I am going to get out of here. I will catch all of you for the game tomorrow in the post-game show. Till then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. And I'll catch each and every one of you on the next one. Fins up.